Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Purdue, and I am a nerd, and you are lucky enough to be here for our May 2017 Coffee Pot webinar, where today we are talking to Ken Wineke from Thomson Reuters about a product called eBillingHub, which we will get right into. So there we have it. I'm going to press a few magic buttons, and while I do, Ken is going to tell us all about himself, how many dogs and cats he has, what sports teams he likes, what Thomson Reuters does, and in the meantime, I'm going to switch over to his screen. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Paul, with that introduction. Hard to follow up. No Funyuns for me, and I'll spare you the dogs and the cats, but I am greatly appreciative for everyone's time on the call and for Paul and Leanne to guiding us today. Bear with me one second. There you go. Paul, I assume I'm sharing. Maybe confirm for me. Okay, great. So everyone, good morning. Again, my name is Ken Wineke. I'm with eBillingHub. eBillingHub is a product of Thomson Reuters and has been since 2011. However, just as a brief background, eBillingHub was founded inside a law firm located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, actually in 2002. And the product kind of went to market in 2004. So we have been at this for about 13 years. We've currently grown to where we serve, our product is in the offices of about 430 or so law firms worldwide, but most, of course, in North America. And again, we are a partner and an integration partner with the Tabs3 folks, and are excited by that. Through our history, we've probably processed about 17 million invoices. Last year alone, about 3.5 million. So it's growing and growing. And if those of you on the call that do electronic billing, it's very likely that your volume has grown over the years and year over year. It's a phenomenon that's going to continue. If you're a corporate legal department, it really makes all the sense in the world to electronically bill or have your law firms electronically bill you, because it helps with budget, it helps with control, and the terminology in the industry, the acronym is LSM, Legal Spend Management. So you're going to see more and more of it. There's more complexity. There are about 36 e-billing vendors out there that firms must interface with. Serengeti, Timemetrics, DataCert, Collaborati are among the bigger. So those of you, again, who do this work will recognize those names. But again, sort of be forewarned that there are 30-some in the market. And then in addition to that, you have corporations that sort of have their own data exchange program. So it's a growing phenomena. And once again, I appreciate Paul's and Leanne's opportunity to speak with you folks today at this meeting. What we'll do today is just a very high-level overview of eBillingHub as a service, so that you get a feel for what it is, and if it's something that interests you and learning more about, then we're certainly going to welcome you to follow up with us, and we can spend more individual time. So I will hit the highlights of the system, allow you to leave this meeting today with an understanding of the basics of this product. So with that, we'll kind of launch in. eBillingHub is a web-based service. It's a SaaS application. Your firm, a firm that uses the service, would have logins to the system. We encourage your firm to have multiple logins, each user of it, whether it's a biller, a financial professional, or accounting, collections, or otherwise, to have his or her own ID, because that will allow their usage to be tracked. But essentially, it's a web-based application that a user, individual would log in from his or her desktop, use their password, and when you're in the system, you'll see an interface that looks very similar to what you see here in my demo environment. The three main components that we'll touch on very briefly today are, I think, really the main components of the system and where the value comes from. That's in the e-billing, helping us help you get e-bills out the door more quickly, tracking where are all of the e-bills that we've sent and in the process, and reports. Tell me a little bit about my usage, our analytics around it. So from the standpoint, and really what we're doing is whomever our founding fathers, so to speak, very accurately named the system. It truly is a hub for e-billing. So again, at the essence of what you see here, and what we try to do is bring all of your clients and information into one central portal. So those of you who e-bill know that you have to individually set up and log in one by one your interactions with your different clients, and the e-bill them with through separate logins. Even if they use the same eBilling system, you have, of course, separate logins because they're separate clients. eBillingHub is centralizing that into one portal. So what you see here on this screen by representation is a listing of a hypothetical law firm and their client. So as a user, what we would do is we would help you as a firm set up all the clients to which you wanted to use eBillingHub to eBill. We're going to, by virtue of our integration with Tabs3, is to be able to connect or read the data in your Tabs system so that we can create the leads file, validate it against the client guidelines, and send it to your client for you, all from this interface. So I'll show you an example of that. I'll click on a client. So again, instead of me in the current state having to log into the ABC Plastic site and upload a bill, having created a leads file to do that in eBillingHub, I choose the client. It displays the matters that are eBillable matters on the right side of the screen. I can select some or all, which I'll do, and I can kind of continue this process. I'll pick, for the sake of brevity today, I'll pick just a couple clients. I could continue this process through all these clients. So I've marked, let's use that vernacular, I've marked 15 bills for ABC Plastic. I've marked those for Liberty Mutual, and let's say I'll just complete the process with Zurich. As I said, I could choose any of these clients. At this point, and to back up just half a step, your firm has not created a leads file. You've not built a leads file. We are going to do this for you at this step. All we've done is basically told the system, hey, I want you, eBillingHub, to create and validate e-bills for these 3 different clients at this particular moment, and I have a total of 28 invoices. So let me...
So I'm going to interrupt and I'm going to interject.
Please do.
What this means then is that you don't use Task Bill anymore, which is a program that STI puts out. You simply final bill and update, and then Thomson, or should I say eBillingHub, takes over.
Yep, thanks, Paul. And yes, thank you for kind of adding to that, and certainly please lend your expertise from the Tabs3 standpoint. While Paul was talking, I clicked the next key. So if I'm satisfied with that for now at this sitting, I'm going to proceed forward. Again, I could certainly go back and grab more bills later after lunch in the afternoon, tomorrow, whatever the case is. But at this point, what we're doing is, querying certain predefined tables within Tabs in order to create the leads file. So we are creating 28 leads files essentially right here at this spot. In addition to that, we're validating them, meaning that throughout the process of creating a lead file, we're also looking to see, is there anything that we're creating or pulling over that potentially runs afoul and violates the client's guidelines. And so that's a big issue in the industry. Rejections are probably the #1 revenue diminisher for e-billing, because with every rejection, you get the time it takes to fix that rejection or address it at least. You have the potential write-downs that come from that, and the general slow pay. Again, I mentioned we do millions and millions of invoices. Our data shows that for every rejection slows payment on average by about 7 days due to a variety of factors. So that slow payment in itself has a value to the law firm. So again, reducing rejections is one of the key aspects what eBillingHub helps firms with, and one of the end goals that a firm wants to achieve. We see here in the upper left, it says Step 2 validation report. So key point here is these 28 invoices have not yet gone to your client. They're here for you to see, do I have any issues with them? Because again, #1, we want to reduce rejections, and #2, we want to do it as early in the process as possible, as far upstream as possible. So as we created those 28 files, we show here that we do have a few that have some potential issues and errors. And again, for the sake of time today, I'll just kind of touch on an overview of that. These are just examples. See, for instance, with this one Zurich invoice we've created, it indicates that it's just a reminder. It's not really a warning. We haven't done anything wrong. We're just saying, hey, remember, you need backup to be sent because you have expenses that exceed $50 on this bill. We give you a mechanism to attach a backup, and it is through this attached file icon. There's also, though, a warning, a problem here that would potentially cause a rejection. There's a Westlaw usage that slipped into this bill, an E106 code. So again, eBillingHub is recognizing that. We see an E106 when we created the leads file. We know that Zurich's guidelines, we've matched it up and said they don't allow E106. So we're telling you that here. Again, there's a plethora of warnings and issues that could come up. Those of you who do e-billing know it from your daily life, but these are the types of things that if they do slip through and make it onto your client are typically going to cause that rejection / write down / ultimately a cost to your firm. Another set of, scroll down a bit to here. I apologize for the scrolling in this particular example. They put it towards the end of the screen, so bear with me. But you see here, Liberty Mutual bill. There are just another example of the types of things that it's finding. For instance, here, the client has a 255 narrative length for characters, and you have several narrative entries written here that are excessive. Again, the types of little things, sometimes they're silly things, but nonetheless, they can cause backup, slow down, rejection. We want to tell you that. Again, there are so many different examples. These are just two very basic ones. But the point being here, at this stage, eBillingHub will tell you if you have a potential issue with an e-bill before you send it out the door. So the next question typically is what happens if this occurs. There is an editing feature within the eBillingHub. We won't go into that today, but we could edit this bill and make these changes, get rid of that E106, change the description, whatever we need to do. We can also hold it, and that typically is a best practice, and fix that back in the system of origin, which is Tabs3. So for our example purposes today, and as we walk through the demo, I would just say, okay, I have 2 e-bills out of the 28 that have potential issues I need to address, but I want to get the other 26 out the door right now. And so what one would do is click Hold Invoices with Errors. That means we won't send the 2 that have some issues. We'll go back into Tabs and fix those. And in the meantime, the other 26, and at this point, they're all being uploaded to the vendor. So eBillingHub essentially serves as your proxy and your agent, and we're essentially uploading those to in this case, the 3 client sites that they need to go to. And in a few seconds, we'll get a confirmation that they have been submitted. So if we kind of take a little bit of a pause and a look back, essentially within the course of a few minutes, we've selected, created, checked, and sent, in this case, 28 e-bills holding 2 back. And you can see a note that they hold the 2 back. So I often like to break down eBillingHub really into 2 main components, the 2 halves, so to speak, if you're looking at it from sort of a sports analogy. The first half is really going to be what we just looked at, the processing aspect, the ability to help a law firm much more quickly and accurately submit their e-bills in a batch. Our studies and metrics and whatnot are showing that essentially we can triple the efficiency of a firm being able to conduct and promote and send e-bills. I mean, it's very, and again, there's a wide variety of folks on the call. Some of you may not have nearly this many e-bills, but where an individual e-biller might by themselves be able to produce 200 to 250 e-bills a month. eBillingHub, our usage data shows that an average user in eBillingHub can do as many as 700 e-bills a month, and that's because of what you just saw. They're really not having to create, manipulate leads, files, and whatnot. So the processing aspect of it is really sort of phase 1, first half, so to speak, right? Helping you get your e-bills out the door and integrating with Tabs in order to do that. That's where the integration comes in. Second half is what I've transitioned here, and this is what we call our tracking screen. So I clicked an update button that got us there, but we could also go straight here. In many law firms, you'll have individuals who are not going to do the e-billing, but they sure want to know where e-bills are in the process. And especially as you get into members of the firm and partners and whatnot, knowing what's the status of payment. Likewise, financial professionals needing to work with those partners to potentially move payment along. So again, as we kind of move through the process here, we're under the tracking module. And really what this is it's essentially a dashboard of every e-bill that you've sent to your client that you've not been paid in full on. So again, it's an important distinction and definitely relates to this. So again, not been paid in full. And that's where the other main integration point with Tabs3 comes in. We're able to read your AR tables, and allow me real quickly, just forgive me for a second. I need to manipulate a bit of the data on the screen so I can show you folks what we're talking about here. But
Ken?
yes. Yes.
I do have some questions.
Okay.
Let me know if it's a good time to interrupt you.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
No, not a problem.
The first question, how does eBillingHub know what each client's billing guidelines are? Do they upload them?
Well, we do. Great question. We have a library housed in our data servers of close to 5,500 different client formats of just about, not every corporation that does e-billing, but everyone that we've ever had to build and submit to on behalf of our 400 plus law firms. So again, it's well over 5,000. Part of that library, we have coded in all the guidelines. So we are maintaining, updating, and adding to those guidelines. And so that you folks, it's important for the law firm to know the guidelines, right? Because you want to be in compliance, but that's where it's our job to maintain and update. And if you need a format, a special leads format, or an updated guideline built, eBillingHub will do that for you.
Okay, so the second question is, how is your product? Well, there's several questions here. One is, how is your product priced? We might cover at the end, maybe.
Yeah,
okay,
well, we say park that one.
Okay, let me keep going. This particular firm only has 3 or 4 invoices a month that require task-based billing. Are there any setup charges? Okay, that we're still talking about pricing. What happens if our client's format is not already one of yours? I think you might have answered that one. Is there an additional charge?
We will build it for you. No.
Is there an additional charge?
No additional charge for as part of our service to our clients. If you need a new template or format built for XYZ Corporation and it's not in that library of 5,500, we will build it as part of for you within a few days as part of your service.
Okay, and next question. Does eBillingHub help to set up matters on the site? Is the if the matter is not set up already?
Great question. We do not. There's still a component of the firm communicating and having their client set it up on their end. So great question. Very typical question. So if you have a new matter or a new timekeeper that you need your client to input in their Serengeti system on their end, for instance, you would still ask and require and communicate with them to do that. So when we send them the bill, as we just did the step prior, the invoice to Zurich through, and it, again, as your agent essentially, and it hits the system of Zurich on their end, it still has to have been set up by them, right? Or it's going to bounce and they say, we don't recognize it. So that process of having the matter, having your client, e.g. Zurich, set it up on their end is the same process as you would have now. We are working on, we would like to be able to help firms with that and facilitate that. We're probably still about a year away or so from firms being able to use the hub to do that. So right now, you would do that as you do today.
Okay, another question.
Okay, sure.
Does the hub handle appeals?
It handles it. Well, it depends a bit. That could be there could, in terms of, I guess, the definition of handles. And that brings us actually to this screen. Do you want me to answer that question and then touch on this screen, Leanne, or did you have it? So I'm happy to, or we'll park it for a second.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about the screen, and if there's a follow-up question, I'm sure we'll hear about that. Okay,
great. No, and that's obviously, again, a very common and good question. So we're looking at the tracking screen. This, again, is going to be your dashboard, as I mentioned. So really what it's doing in brief is we are getting status updates from the client and the vendor. We're going to get those status updates and display them in the list that you see here. And it's something that can constantly refresh itself. This tracking number is the tracking number of your client and vendor. We're going to display that here if so. The status is, again, is what's coming from them. So right now, typically a law firm will get emails individually from their different clients on the e-bills that they've submitted. Sometimes there's a login process to the site. What we want to do is centralize that, give the firm one area of visibility into that. And so as statuses change and update, we'll reflect that. If there's reasons given, and again, this is just a demo site, it provides examples. So I click the word rejected. If your client has communicated what's going on and what the reason is, if it's a rejection, for instance, will tell you that here. Again, just kind of as a illustration. This one, reduced, an example of a client who doesn't communicate, right? They're not telling you now. They're not telling us. We don't get any special reason outside of that, so it wouldn't. So I'm often asked, do you get the reason why? The answer is yes. If our client tells you, we'll tell you here as well. If something needed to be appealed, so if we have a rejection here, I guess the answer to that question is it depends. If it's a matter that you want to you can make a change on your end and resubmit. eBillingHub, of course, allows that. You would go in, you would make the change, make whatever modification your client rejected this for, and this button over here, the pop-up says resubmit the invoice and send it back through, and of course send it to them. If it's an appeal that truly is an appeal where you're needing to have a conversation with them, kind of just to use the blunt term, argue with them and ask for them to reconsider and so forth, essentially a one-to-one conversation, you would still have that separately as you do now. You would have those phone calls, send those emails back and forth, whatever the case is. What our users do use the hub for is, if I decided to appeal that rejection and I had to do so outside the hub and with do that directly with the client, you do that separately from the hub. What I am doing here, wanted to point out, is that you can then make a status note, because if you want the hub to be a single point of communication and visibility for your firm, then again, likewise, if someone is tracking the ABC plastic and it's been appealed outside the hub, but one could still know what was going on by the notes entered. So does it handle appeals? It essentially appeals from the traditional process of having to go back to the client and talk to them, et cetera. No, you would still do that directly with your client. eBillingHub, is a way that could handle the process if you made a change and or put notes in the system. The other aspect of this tracking screen, which is extremely important and which ties back into tabs, is the AR. So again, this is really a screen that is synchronizing both externally and internally. Externally, as we just discussed, it's getting the status updates that you folks now get individually and putting them in one central spot for all to see. The other is the AR that you are receiving from the client. And so there's a nice example right here of the Zurich payment sent. So this is a status that says payment sent, but it will stay on the screen until you actually get paid that amount and that full amount. So again, to further, to illustrate, $14.9920 is our remaining balance. Let's say when you get that payment from Zurich, you apply it in tabs like you all do today. If you got a payment from a client, eBillingHub on a synchronization, which you can control and set, will read that AR payment, and if this total payment goes to $14.9920 and the balance is zero, you actually would no longer see this item on this screen. This is only for outstanding invoices. So we will read the Tabs3 payment table, for lack of a better term, and as payments are applied in tabs, eBillingHub can read that and apply it here. If you're short paid, if they pay you $14.99 and not the extra 20 cents, it would say here for 20 cents is the remaining balance. Now that being said, and that's a bit of an extreme example, you could stop tracking that. Of course, you probably wouldn't want to worry about 20 cents, so there's a button to click to say stop tracking it. Also, if you just write it off or zero balance it in tabs, we'll read that as well. So again, just last point on this tracking screen is it's a place for everyone in the firm who has access to be able to come here, know what the current status is, and what the payment status is based on a direct integration with tabs. You do not have to manually update or manipulate this screen. There is the ability to do so. Now that screen itself cannot be reported on because it's really it's live, so to speak. So that transitions us into the third and final component of the hub. And again, I'll move quickly through this, point out a couple highlights just for the sake of time. We're in the reports module. You see there's 3 tabs here: billing, collections, management. Those are really set around the job description, the role of the potential user. So in other words, a billing professional will spend a lot of time in these reports, the ability to tell me when invoices are 30 days, have been sitting there for 30 days and have not been updated or pulled through the hub. Invoices summary. You can see you can do that by client, status, or user. Active invoices summary is the prior screen where we were looking at. So essentially, this was that tracking stream, but now in a downloadable, reportable format. And you can see that almost all of our reports have the ability to export in a variety. So if you needed to create a report or transfer it into Excel or something else you were doing, this is sort of a real-time look at what you're owed, what the status is, by whom, etc., and that can all be sorted. There are, again, activity transactions will allow you to quickly run reports of everything that you've e-billed over any point in time, to whom, things of that nature. There's a lot of great reports in here that this forum doesn't, we don't have the time to get into, and so I just kind of want to point that out. The aging report that we only age from the date that the client has accepted it, not from when you first sent it, so you don't have false aging. That's important. That's to run on days to pay by your clients, so you can start to sort of see who are the slower payers, the more troublesome ones, or what can we forecast around, the payment cycles that they have. And just to kind of finish up, the ability to, in an instant, I'm going to click this billing activity trend. I reset my demo every time I have one of these conversations. So here's the 28th that we just ended today. Obviously, in a real world scenario, this would build up and accumulate, and you'd be able to see exactly how many e-bills that you sent through the hub. Likewise, you'd be able to see exactly how much you e-bill to the hub. This can be a very valuable report as you kind of gather what your e-bill revenue is and start to, again, plan for that. And then that in turn of how long is it taking these clients to pay us, and doing better financial planning around that. Rejection levels is an important report. It shows, this will allow you, again, we are going to reduce your rejections. There's no doubt about that. But if you still, hopefully we give you time back, and if we do, you're going to have the ability to look at a report like this and see, in our little scenario here, we only had 2 rejections, and it wasn't very much. But you have a whole list of clients, and if there are any that were outliers that were still in the 20% or more range, you could, start to decide, why is that, and what can we do, to get that down. And the last report I'll leave you with is again, one of the more popular and important reports. And it has to do with really giving your firm visibility in terms of everything that's been sent out. Do you have any e-bills that have not been fulfilled, or maybe have not even been sent? This is kind of a falling through the cracks type of report, I guess I'd say. Notice here, there's a lot of red only because of the time we have today. I didn't take time to, to e-bill a lot of our stuff. This just means if anything is in green, it's been successfully e-billed. If it's in red, it's not. So in a glance, your firm can look at this and say, uh-oh, what do we have there? Why do we have all this red, or why do we have some red on this client? If I click on that, it tells me what I've successfully e-billed versus what I potentially have. Here's the appeal, right? So, Northwood is in appeal. Let's track that down, see what the status is. What do we need for Green Tree? More info required. But notice these 5 that say new. And that's the status of all these others, which I won't go into due to time. But really what that tells us is, hey, I have e-bills in tabs that are ready to be sent to our clients, or matters, more accurately put, matters that are ready to be e-billed in tabs that I haven't touched yet. We need to get on those. And so, again, especially as you get towards the end of the month, obviously that's very important. So I go back to where I started, go onto the billing wizard, and 5 new matters were posted in tabs since the last time I was in the hub. So I could select those, and I happen to see that there was AIG and so forth and so on, right? I'm just completing the circle of what we started out doing. If I'm just good with these 9 for now, I click next, and it's really the same process as we started out talking about. So, Paul, I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and that really does kind of conclude the sort of the life cycle that I think I wanted to convey today. But again, the integration with tabs allows us to pull this information to create what we're looking at now, in this case, 9 leads files based on the format and needs of your client, in a couple seconds, frankly, sending those, tracking those, and being able to count, be able to track your metrics. That and tie in with the tabs AR, which is another important point, and often a kind of a bugaboo for firms in terms of just keeping up on statuses. So I'll cut out and be quiet then, Paul, and turn it back over to you and Leanne. Any further questions, or allow you folks to kind of finish up?
There is one more question. Does the eBillingHub provide the amount of time you have to appeal according to the client guidelines?
That information is typically, no, not currently, is the short answer. That is information your billers, your accounting professionals are still going to want to keep track of their, and use the reports. I would say use the reports in eBillingHub to run this report, for instance, in terms of how, if something has been rejected, you can run reports in eBillingHub every week or so, and certainly stay on top of it. But we don't have an alert type of feature, I guess, if essentially is what's being asked there.
Awesome. And that's all the questions,
All right.
Leanne?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, great. Well, this is incredible, Ken. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was kind of taken aback by the fact that there no longer is any need for task bill. It's basically just from the finalized updated statement all the way back to the payment being received in full in the firm, with the exception, of course, of the appeals, everything being managed by eBillingHub. Pretty phenomenal. Do you want to, while I switch back to me, do you want to touch on pricing a little bit? Just explain.
Yeah. Sorry, we parked out. So this is a subscription service, folks. It's essentially 1 year increments. You would subscribe to the service for 1 year. There's in terms of a setup charge, a one-time setup fee. It's in the ballpark of $2,500. It's only fairly minimal to get you set up and running. It's typically a 2-month process in terms of signing up for the service, signing an agreement, to being live and running. It typically takes about a month to get on our implementation calendar, during which time we're having you fill out a worksheet so we get your client data and matter data, and then about a month from there to go live, actually. And it's really just a couple different touch points of WebExes and trainings. So fairly low key overall in terms of a technology implementation. From a pricing standpoint, we're priced based on e-bill volume, the number of e-bills that your firm would subscribe to be able to use eBillingHub for. And they come in tiers of, typically in tiers of 50. We do have a 25 e-bill per month minimum, essentially. That's our lowest level. But then it's 50 e-bills per month, 100 e-bills per month, 150 e-bills per month, so on up the ladder. A firm would subscribe and say, I want to use this service and process up to 100 e-bills a month, and it's a flat fee based on that. And again, it goes up into the thousands, obviously, but just it's based on the volume, the number of e-bills that you would want us to create and send for you through the system is how the pricing is structured.
Got it. Awesome. I will say that when I originally heard pricing, I thought it was expensive, and I have talked to a lot of people since then that use it, and I've talked to a lot of people since then that are looking at using it or think it's neat. And interestingly enough, none of those people thought it was expensive based on what it does. So
yeah,
granted, the person who said that she had 3 or 4 e-bills per month probably is not going to be in the
correct.
In the target market for this product. But any firm that's doing even 25, even 50 e-bills a month, huge benefit. I'm getting a signal from Leanne that we have one more question.
Can you tell us what the cost would be for 100 e-bills a month?
It would be, I would want to double check. Well, let me step back. There is a couple of options. Firms can subscribe on a monthly basis, they subscribe yearly. That we do have longer terms. So I'd say all that as a bit of a qualifier to say the pricing can really run the gamut, and there be some variables. Put it down is probably the best way to put it. But to answer the question right up front of me, 100 e-bills a month would be roughly in the range of, I would say, about $9,000 annually, give or take, depending on what, which pricing structure you went to. So let's say like an $8,000 to $10,000 a year, price would be, at least to be, answer that question and give you folks at least a what bigger than a breadbasket kind of scenario.
Okay, that's
right.
great. Well, to finish up here, I'm going to take everybody to attorneycomputersystems.com so they can find out, A, how to get back to this recorded version of this video once it's available, to show all the other people in their firm how great this is, and so they can see what other video content we have. So it's attorneycomputersystems.com. Notice the emphasis on the last S in the word systems. If you click on the word videos or hover over the word videos, you will see all of our video content that's available. We have 3 water cooler virtual user group meetings each month, and the Coffee Pot webinar. Those are our 4 live events that we host each month. Of course, our Tabs, Practice Master, and World Docs virtual user group meetings, and our Coffee Pot webinar, which is where you are right now. We also have our eBites video series and our Paul and Mary Jo show. These are pre-recorded content. So you can't attend these events live unless you come here on film day every month and go out to lunch with us. But we've not had anybody ask to do that. So this is Mary Jo's short little videos, 2, 3, 4 minutes on really cool things that we find in a certain package. She records 3 of those each month, 1 on Tabs, 1 on Practice Master, 1 on World Docs. These are our longer format pre-recorded videos where we take a more broad or a more complicated topic and dig kind of deep into it, spending 10, 15, 20, sometimes 25 minutes, taking a deep dive into that particular subject. If you go to any of these places by clicking on the link, like the Coffee Pot webinars, for instance, you will end up on a page that describes, if it's a live event, describes what it's about, gives information on the next event. This will be changed later today. Gives 2 places where you can click to link and register up. Link up and register for the webinar. And then as you scroll down, you'll find pre-recorded versions of everything else we've done. So this is being recorded. It'll be out of production in a couple weeks and ready for people to look at. You get to look at it live, so you're here seeing it a little bit early. And so you can kind of browse around, and if you're looking for something specific, you can just type a term like here, right here, like email statements, and find all the content we have on emailing statements from Tabs. Or if you type eBillingHub, you'll end up looking at this and being able to view it. So this content's out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are literally hundreds. I think we're getting close to the 1,000, the point where I can say there are literally thousands of videos on the site, but not quite there yet. So there's a lot of content. Please take advantage of it and use it. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Leanne. Everybody have a good day, and we will see you next month.
Thank you, everybody, again. Appreciate it.